The moon hung low and swollen in the sky over Willow Creek, casting long, crooked shadows across the cobblestone streets and the ancient oak trees. The town was small, with a population of 5,000. The townsfolk would smile at newcomers with an eerie familiarity, as if they knew things that they shouldn't. This place was old, older than the worn-out facades and the stories whispered at Jake's Tavern, where the regulars nursed their beers and gossiped about who'd gone missing lately. In the center of town was an ancient well, half swallowed by twisting vines and crumbling brick. The locals insisted it was there long before the first settlers arrived. Back then, it was a water source for a settlement called Harlow's Edge, a place mentioned only in obscure books that hadn't seen the inside of a library in decades. As the story went, Harlow's Edge vanished from all maps in the early 1700s, its inhabitants seemingly swallowed by the earth. No one from Willow Creek ever mentioned Harlow's Edge, at least not openly, no. They just muttered about it when they knew no one was listening. The first thing 16-year-old Lily Sullivan noticed after moving to Willow Creek was the way the town seemed to breathe at night. Not like New York City, where everything felt alive in a pulsing, vibrant sort of way, but in a way that was deliberate, calculating, like the town was waiting for something. Maybe someone. Her father had dragged her here, claiming they needed a fresh start, but she knew it was her mother's idea. She left behind her friends her senior year, and any hope of feeling normal. Now the town was so small, Lily couldn't even find it on a map. Her mother, Evelyn, stayed quiet during the entire move. In the car, she looked straight ahead, scared of looking back. Now the change in Lily's mother was sudden. Lily noticed Evelyn waking up at odd hours in the night, staring out the window as if expecting someone. She was a completely different person. Maybe it was the move. Maybe she too was missing home. By her first week in town, Lily had grown restless. The townspeople were odd. Everyone standing a little too straight, grinning with dead eyes. They'd ask her too many questions and nod just a second too late when she answered, as if they were distracted by something over her shoulder. It was as if they made eye contact with someone behind her. Lily swore she felt someone breathing down her neck, and when she turned around, no one was there. One chilly October evening, Lily walked through the town square, earbuds in, trying to lose herself in music. The streets were mostly empty, save for a few old women standing outside Jake's Tavern, their conversations trailing off as Lily passed by. As she neared the old well, something caught her eye. She pulled out her earbuds, her heart beating a little faster. Nothing moved. Silence. Lily pushed her dark hair behind her ears nervously.
Hey.
A boy emerged from behind the well, his face pale and his eyes a dull, unsettling shade of green.
Who are you?
I'm Caleb. You're new here, right, Lily?
How do you know my name?
He stepped a little closer, careful not to crowd her, his voice low and sincere.
It's a small town. You shouldn't be out here at night.
And why is that?
I could tell you, but that would ruin the fun, wouldn't it? Look, just listen to me. It's just not safe this time of night. Weird things happen near the woods after dark. Stay away from the well, too. It's, safer that way.
What?
Yeah, I know how it sounds. A mysterious voice showing up out of nowhere, warning you to stay away from the creepy places. But I'm not trying to scare you, Lily. I'm trying to help. There's a lot you don't know about this town, and not all of it is harmless. Just trust me on this, okay? Stay out of the woods until you know more.
Okay, Caleb. What are you talking about? Know more about what?
You're not like the others. Not yet.
Before Lily could say anything, he turned around and disappeared into the darkness, leaving her standing by the well, confused and more than a little scared. Lily spent the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't shake Caleb's words from her mind. He knew something she didn't, something terrible, and something she couldn't avoid. So what was it? Unable to sleep, she decided to see for herself. Trying to sneak past her parents' room, she noticed the door was slightly open. The bed was perfectly made and empty.
Mom?
She made her way to the living room, half expecting to find her mother and father asleep on the couch, but the room was empty. A chill ran down Lily's spine, and she couldn't tell if it was from the cold or something else. Lily grabbed her flashlight and slipped out of the house. The woods were just 2 blocks away, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was pulling her there, whispering in a voice only she could hear. As Lily approached the entrance to the woods, she noticed an old weathered sign half hidden beneath the tangled vines. The sign was carved from a dark wood, its edges splintered and worn with time. In the dim light of her flashlight, she could just make out the faded words etched into its surface. Beware the Hallow One. The Hallow One was more than just a story in Willow Creek. It was a cautionary tale. They always spoke about its hunger, whatever that meant. Lily pulled her hand away from the sign, feeling an inexplicable urge to turn back, but the pull toward the woods only got stronger. The whispering voice she couldn't quite hear now felt closer, urging her forward, making her feel like she wasn't alone. Then she heard it, a low, rhythmic hum, chanting. She pressed forward with the flashlight trembling in her hands, her breath shaking as she took each step. And when she reached a clearing, she stopped dead in her tracks. A circle of townsfolk stood in the center, near a fire pit, holding hands and swaying in unison, circling someone. Their eyes were closed and their lips moving in a chant. But it wasn't the sight of the townsfolk that made Lily's blood run cold, no. It was the person standing in the middle of the circle, her mother, wearing only a black cloak. Lily's breath was caught in her throat as she was trying to make sense of what she was seeing, and without warning, her mother's eyes snapped open, locking onto hers. Lily jumped back. It was as if she was staring into the abyss, cold, empty.
Lily, come here, darling. We've been waiting for you.
What is this?
This is who we are. The town chose us, and now it's chosen you.
Then the townsfolk turned to face her, their eyes black, vacant. Lily tried to back away, but her mother grabbed her wrist with her icy cold hands.
You were always meant to be a part of this place, Lily. I didn't want to do this, but the town, it demands things. It demands children, and it always chooses those it knows it can mold, those who are bound to it by blood.
You see, Evelyn grew up in Willow Creek under the watchful eye of her own mother, Agnes, a stern woman who whispered prayers all night, perhaps in fear or perhaps in devotion, maybe both. Agnes was a devoted servant of the Hallow One, a dark entity that lived beneath the town, an ancient presence tied to the land and the old well that sat at its center for generations. Evelyn's family had served the Hallow One, offering sacrifices to appease its hunger and ensure Willow Creek remained veiled from the prying eyes of the outside world, to keep it safe. As a child, Evelyn had always felt the weight of something dark looming over her, a presence she couldn't see but could sense watching from the corners of her room in the shadows of the woods. Her mother had trained her in the ways of the old traditions, preparing her for the day she would take up the mantle as the keeper. Agnes made it clear that their family line was not just devoted to the Hallow One. They were bound to it by blood. When Evelyn turned 18, she tried to escape the town, desperate to break free of the suffocating rituals and the whispers of the woods. She left in the dead of night. But Willow Creek has a way of pulling its children back. It wasn't long before she was found, wandering aimlessly through the woods, her memory hazy and her mind filled with fragments of ancient chants and twisted visions of dark roots coiling around her ankles. Agnes completed Evelyn's initiation, binding her soul to the Hallow One. From then on, Evelyn served the town as her mother had before her, performing the rituals and overseeing the sacrifices. But Evelyn's fate was more intertwined with the Hallow One than she realized. The entity had chosen her as its vessel, and years later, Evelyn tried to escape again. She met a man from the city, and for a brief time, she thought she could live a normal life away from Willow Creek. They had Lily, and Evelyn tried to shield her daughter from the darkness that had claimed her own life. Oh, but the Hallow One's connection ran deep. And as Lily grew older, Evelyn noticed the signs. Whispers only Lily could hear. Dreams filled with the same symbols Evelyn saw as a child. And the pull, an insatiable pull toward the well. It wasn't long before Evelyn realized the truth. The Hallow One didn't want her anymore. It wanted Lily. In her desperation, Evelyn returned to Willow Creek. She convinced herself she could reason with the Hallow One, make a deal, save Lily from the fate that awaited her. But by the time she arrived back in town, something inside of her began to shift. The moment Evelyn stepped over the threshold of the old family home, she felt its presence. A physical weight pressed on her chest, and Evelyn found it both familiar and comforting. You cannot escape your path. And the townsfolk welcomed her with knowing smiles, whispering old greetings and calling her the keeper. And Evelyn felt a strange comfort in their words. It was as if the part of her that had rebelled so fiercely against Willow Creek had been stripped away, leaving only the remnants of the girl who had once knelt at the well and heard its whispers. And the whispers returned, wrapping themselves around Evelyn's mind like old vines reclaiming a crumbling wall. Evelyn's desperation to protect Lily transformed into something darker, something inevitable. The voice of the Hallow One began to speak to her in dreams, weaving its promises into her subconscious. It showed her the veil lifting, outsiders flooding in, and the entity's hunger spreading like a disease. And through it all, the whisper was the same. You know what must be done. Evelyn's thoughts were twisted and reshaped under the entity's influence. Her desire to save Lily turned into a conviction that the only way to protect her daughter now was to sacrifice her to the Hallow One, to make Lily a part of something greater.
You knew? You knew this would happen? And you knew the town would try to take me?
Honey, when your father brought us here, I thought I could protect you. I thought I could keep you from the whispers, the pull from him. But I was wrong. The town, it's older than all of us, older than bones in the earth, and it always demands blood. Always demands family.
You're giving me up to this thing. You're letting it take me.
It's not about giving you up, Lily. It's about keeping the rest of the town safe. If the Hallow One doesn't get what he wants, he takes more and more. He spreads and he consumes everything in his path. We keep the Hallow One contained here.
You don't have to do this. We can leave.
No one leaves. Once the town chooses you, you can't run. And the roots, they always find you.
Lily's breathing was ragged. Her thoughts raced. Every instinct told her to run.
Lily, you have to accept this. It's the only way.
No.
Lily, listen. The Hallow One, he's part of the land itself. He needs those he could claim fully. Body, mind, and soul. Like a bloodline. And you, Lily, you're a part of me. You're part of this place.
The townsfolk started to chant in low voices, swaying in unison, and the ground started to rumble. Lily turned and ran, her feet pounding against the ground as she bolted through the trees. Branches scratched at her face and arms, and she stumbled over exposed roots, but she kept running. But the woods wouldn't let her go. They stretched on for miles as if closing in around her. And no matter how far she ran, the chanting never seemed to fade away. It was as if she could hear them in her mind. She reached the edge of the woods and saw her house in the distance. The sight of it, familiar and safe, gave her hope. She sprinted toward it, her legs burning, her lungs on fire. She reached the front door and threw it open, slamming it shut behind her and locking it. For a moment she thought she was safe, but then she heard it. The low, growling hum coming from beneath her feet. It was inside the house.
Why? Why is this happening?
The hum grew louder and felt it vibrating underneath the floorboards. It was inside the house. It had always been inside the house. Her heart pounding, Lily made her way to the basement door. She opened it slowly. Lily made her way down the stairs, her flashlight flickering in her trembling hand. And the basement air was damp and thick, the smell of mildew mingling with something metallic, something that made Lily's stomach turn. She reached the bottom of the stairs, her heart pounding, and as her flashlight beam swept across the dark room, she froze. There, slumped up against the far wall, was a figure. Lily didn't want to believe it, but it was her father.
Dad.
His lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling. His face was pale and sunken. His shirt was covered in dark patches, long since dried. Lily felt her breath catch in her throat as she took in the terrible sight. His chest was marked with strange symbols crudely carved into his skin as if by someone with a trembling hand. There was no sign of struggle, no evidence of resistance, just those symbols in the dark and the lifeless eyes of the man who was once her father. And as Lily reached out, she saw a piece of paper clutched in her father's hand, his fingers locked in a death grip around it. Lily forced herself to pry it free. She unfolded the paper, and beneath the symbol were words written in her father's handwriting. "She isn't your mother anymore." There was a flash of light from the other side of the basement. She turned, and that's when she saw the old, dusty painting leaning against the far wall. Her flashlight flickered, and the painting seemed to ripple in the dim light like something alive. As she moved closer, she noticed the painted figures of the townspeople, small, indistinct shapes scattered across the landscape. And then, to her horror, she saw them move. The figures turned their heads one by one, their tiny faces tilting up to look directly at her. Lily took a step back, but her eyes were drawn to one figure in the painting, a young girl standing near the well. The girl looked familiar, and when Lily took a step closer to get a better look, the girl's head slowly turned toward Lily.
Welcome home, Lily.
What are you?
I'm you. And this place, this is your home, just as it was your mother's. Willow Creek has been waiting. Oh, it's been waiting for you.
The sound of the basement door slowly creaked open, and when Lily turned her head, at the top of the stairs stood Caleb.
Come on, we have to go. I have to get you out of here.
They ran through the empty streets, not stopping until they reached the edge of the town.
Not gonna die, right? We can leave? I can't go back there.
There's something I need to tell you. I wasn't completely honest. Actually, I wasn't being honest the entire time. The painting, it's not just a creepy thing. It's a ritual of sorts. Everybody who's ever been taken is in it, and now you are too. The Hallow One chose you, Lily. It's his way to determine if you're one of us, if you belong here. It shows us who's next. And your mother, well, she's the keeper.
Lily stumbled as she backed away from Caleb, but he caught her arm and his grip tightened.
This place, It's older than all of us. It's older than the town, older than the settlers who came here thinking they could tame it. The settlers who founded Willow Creek thought they could control it by building the town around it by making sacrifices. They believed they could keep it contained, but the truth is, it's never really been contained. It's just sleeping, waiting to be fed, and if we don't keep feeding it, it'll wake up and swallow everything.
So you lure people here just to sacrifice them?
I don't have a choice, Lily. It's been this way for generations. My family, my father, his father before him, we were all bound to this place, forced to play our part. If I don't do what it asks, it'll take everyone, Lily, everyone. Your mother got lucky. She was never supposed to leave Willow Creek.
He finally met her gaze, and she saw something in his eyes that scared her more than anything else. Resignation. He had accepted his role, his fate, and he had chosen to betray her to save himself.
The Hallow One is an entity beneath the earth, living and growing like roots in the soil. It needs souls to survive. You belong to Willow Creek now. And the Hallow One, it needs to feed.
Lily began to scream, but she was alone.
I never wanted to do this.
Lily woke up with her head throbbing, her vision coming in and out of focus. The cold, damp earth pressed against her cheek, and the sharp scent of moss lingered in the air. She tried to push herself up, but her body felt heavy, sluggish. Her thoughts were hazy, disoriented, as if they were trying to claw their way through the fog in her mind.
Oh, Lily, my sweet girl.
Lily turned her head and saw them, the townsfolk, naked, watching her. And there, standing in the center of them, was her mother. Lily tried to stand, her limbs trembling with the effort, but before she could fully rise, she felt something cold and slimy coil around her ankle. She gasped, looking down to see thick, dark vines snaking up from the earth. She kicked frantically, trying to free herself, but the vines only tightened their grip, pulling her closer to the edge of the well. The vines continued to wind their way up her body. The vines tightened around her chest, constricting her breath, and she felt herself being lifted off the ground, suspended above the dark, gaping hole. Lily felt the vines around her neck, her limbs going numb as the vines pulled her closer to the edge, and when she looked up one last time, meeting Caleb's gaze, he stood there, the moonlight catching the moisture tracing lines down his cheeks. But he made no move to help her. He couldn't. The town had chosen her, and there was no escaping it.
Help me.
I'm sorry, but the Hallow One has to feed.
And in the days that followed, the town whispered about a girl that came to Willow Creek and disappeared. But no one seemed surprised. Life in Willow Creek continued as it always had, quietly and sinisterly, waiting for its next victim. One night, a new family arrived, drawn by the town's quiet charm. Among them was a teenage boy, curious and eager to explore. He wandered the cobblestone streets, feeling an odd sense of déjà vu. As he passed the old well, he thought he heard a whisper, a voice calling his name. It sounded like a girl, her voice familiar and chillingly sweet. From deep within the earth, Lily's voice had joined the thousands of whispers calling out to the boy. Welcome home.